Well, it's very interesting, the way the world's going and what effect that's going to have on HR skills. It seems to me that, there's a few things that come up really centre of my mind. One is, I think networks are becoming really important, and I think the good HR person understands about networks, how they work and how they deliver value in their organisation. Of course, as you think about technological developments, it's obvious that analytics are going to be a big part of the HR role. So I think another new skill that HR needs is really around that. And of course, thirdly, as always, how do you build great relationships with the CEO and the head of the business? And the way that you do that is by being absolutely clear about what the business is and how it works. And so those three things I think are going to be really important going forward. This question of rhetoric and reality was one. I wrote a book 30 years ago called Human Resource Strategy, Organizational Rhetoric, Individual Reality. So even then, we could see a huge gap between what companies said they were doing and what they're actually doing. I think in many ways, that gap is now getting smaller because so many people now are talking about what happens in companies. So I think the rhetoric-reality gap is getting smaller. Why do companies do that? Well, it's the same reason why we say one thing and then do another. It's very hard to deliver on what you promise all the time. Some companies are much better at that, and in this room today, our Future Work Consortium, we've got some companies who are good at delivering that. But actually, under financial pressure, it's very easy for the rhetoric to get lost. Well, how do you retain talent is changing, obviously, as the context of work changes. I think number one is, have you given people a job that they find interesting, that they're learning from? So actually the job content, I think, is crucial for talent. Secondly, how are they being managed? And what we know is talented people like a lot of feedback and they like to be coached. So are you coaching and managing them? And then thirdly, are you allowing them to meet people that will inspire and excite them, so actually help them to develop that big ideas crowd, as I call it. So I think those are some of the key issues there. Well, the skills gap is simply coming because companies want stuff that universities and colleges are not developing. So I think the quick wins are do what Singapore does and get the universities to work much more closely with companies. It's very interesting here at the Future Work Consortium today. We've talked a lot about apprenticeships, and I can see that companies are thinking more about that, in a sense, to get straight into the skills. So I think actually taking responsibility for the development of skills is going to be important. In the long term, I think that triangle of employees, government and education has to work much more closely together to really bring a strategy that helps the UK become a high-skill economy, which of course is not at the moment.